Governor, you missed some of my best stuff, but I'll keep it brief. Once again, welcome the Governor of California, Edmund G. Brown, Jr.
Well, whatever your best stuff was, it got everybody in a good mood. I don't know why you're so happy. Co-pays, reducing provider reimbursements. I mean, it's terrible. Don't applaud so much. Anyway, I'm only kidding. Things are good. It's a beautiful day outside. The state will generate $2 trillion in new wealth over this 12-month period. So there's a lot of positives, but we do have a few challenges, like about another $13.5 billion to find. But I'm looking for it. If you find anybody with $13.5 billion, will you send them over to the governor's office? Because we're having a bit of a struggle here. And I think it is important, since you've come to Sacramento, you came here to see what we're actually doing here. And it is well to understand what the rules of engagement are. And I just want to restate them. The way our process works, ordinary laws can be signed, can be passed by a majority, and then the governor can sign or veto. When it comes to the budget, which is a very key function of the legislature, that task is also now solved by a majority vote. But when there's a shortage of money, then the budget faces the difficulty of needing of more revenue. Now, if you have more revenue, if you want more revenue, that's a tax. And to get a tax, you have to get a two-thirds vote. And to get a two-thirds vote in this current legislative session, you need 2 Republicans in the Assembly, 2 Republicans in the Senate, and votes from every single Democrat in both houses. If you don't get that, you don't get a tax. If you don't get a tax, then the only option is you got to cut. If you don't want to cut, then you got to borrow. But the legislature and the people have adopted constitutional provisions that don't allow you to borrow unless you go back and get a vote of the people. That was handled under the Schwarzenegger administration. So we're facing a real challenge here. We have to have a balanced budget. Now, one of the practices in years past has been to use gimmicks, and by gimmicks I mean the illusion of revenue to be expected or reductions that will be made in the budget year. Now, when I say illusions, it means that the revenue really is never going to come and the cuts are never going to materialize. So when I ran for governor, I said, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to tell you the way it is, tell it straight, no smoke and mirrors, no gimmicks. And that's exactly what I intend to do. It may be an unexpected course, but it's the only course that can win the support of the people. And I think that's what you want. You know, when I look out, I think we have issues here in California. But when you look at the federal government, the trillions of dollars of new debt that are being added on a regular basis, the gridlock, the threat to shut down the government, the continuing involvement in one foreign adventure after another. I mean, those are really big problems. And here in California, we do have this issue that the two parties can't agree on the way to settle the budget. And there'll be other bills. For example, last night I signed a criminal a realignment bill, realigning the functions for lower-level offenders and parolees to county responsibility. There wasn't one Republican vote for that. Now, why this would be a partisan issue, I don't know. Penologists, experts who really looked at it, see this reform as bold and as far-reaching. We've got a prison system that fails every day of the year. The recidivism rate is 70%. I think it's good to understand that. Anytime you operate a system with a 70% failure rate, you want to ask yourself, am I doing something wrong? Pretty clear. Now, you've heard about the prisons being overcrowded. I don't know that you have heard about the fact that 120,000 individuals come out of prison every year. That's 10,000 a month. And historically, the same number of people have come out. In fact, if you look at it from a hotel management point of view, there's never an empty bed. I mean, this place is managed with exquisite precision. Maybe an hour elapses before one bed is empty and it's filled up again. So it's a constant churning. Now, when you dig into it a little deeper, you find out that among the 120,000, you got some repeats in a year. Because some people under parole violations will come in, they'll go to a reception center, they'll have their colonoscopy, they'll get their psychological evaluation, they'll get their teeth fixed, they'll get all their psychomotor skills, whatever, cognitive, all that stuff that you people deal with, and they'll make sure everything's okay. And that'll take about 3 months, and their sentence will be about 3 months, and they'll leave. And that'll cost about that on an annual basis could be higher than the $50,000. So what we said is, why don't we just leave them in county jail? And that's a problem too, because county jails are crowded. But we can get the same thing for about half the price. One of the reasons we get it for half the price is that the jails haven't been sued as much as the state. And I know you people are a little litigation phobic. Yeah, you are. And I feel your pain. Nobody is sued more than the state prison system in California. Thousands of lawsuits. Every day, there are dozens of lawyers wandering around looking for a leaky faucet or, an inadequate passageway or food that isn't hot or nutritious or whatever. And so we're under 19 consent decrees. Some of them, one of them reached back even to the time of Ronald Reagan. So we get sued, we get so embroiled in the litigation, and unlike you who have a limited budget, we seem to have you have a limited budget, we have an unlimited litigation budget. That's what the Attorney General does. And so we just keep fighting and then we settle. And so we got lawsuits on health care, on medical, on psychiatric care, on handicap access, on juveniles, on prison discipline, on law libraries. I mean, you name it, we got it. And almost every procedure that is part of the management of a prison is dictated by a legal consent decree. So instead of having management as the driver, we have plaintiffs, we have defendants, we have judges, we have expert witnesses, we have receivers, and all the rest of it. And then all that overlay is on top of very minute prescriptions called the criminal justice system, called the system of criminal law. And every year, hundreds of bills are introduced to make new crimes, change the punishments, alter the procedures. So you have an unending profusion of new mandates and prescriptions. And then you got all these lawsuits, and then you have all these people going in and going out, and it's quite a mess. So luckily, I signed a bill last night that will put 20 to 30,000 of these individuals, not take them out of the prison, but keep them from coming in. Other states have done that. So we're making progress. Ultimately, that'll save money. I think it'll be better for the individuals and their families, because one of the things we find is that after somebody's been sitting in a prison for 20, 30, 40 years, then you dump them out, what kind of a job do they get? And the vast majority are homeless. And they just hang around the streets and they take various kind of chemicals or alcohol, and it's very pathetic. And I think we can do better than that. I think we should do better from a moral point of view. I think we should do better from a financial point of view. And I think politically people are up to it. But it is controversial, and that's why I brought that up. We got a lot of issues here. I got to deal with, with economic, what do you call those things? Non-economic damages. I know all about those things. We got to deal with the prisons. We got to deal with the taxes, with the water. I mean, we have a very wide range. But here's my point, is that even though it looks pretty challenging, things in California are doing pretty well. I mean, we don't know how we're going to get that $13.5 billion. That's just one of the little problems I got to deal with. And I don't know how the hell I'm going to get the water flowing to Southern California if we have a little earthquake with those deltas. So we got a little problem there. But other than that, I think it's clear sailing. And so, I mean, I've done this thing before. And so one thing I know is that breakdown is not unexpected. It's just part of the bargain. But breakdowns do lead to breakthroughs. It's just a matter of patience and a certain degree of creativity. And that's what I'm bringing here. And I feel at this stage of my life, when I should have been retired, but because of the pension crisis, I didn't feel I could go out and collect my pension. So I'm going to keep working. I don't know, I got another term, and I can run for one more term as governor. I have not been controller yet, or I have a pension for education, so I'm kind of eyeing the superintendency of education, which I think is probably good for an old man. I kind of see that at the latter part of my 8th decade, to bring together all the reading I will have done by then. I think I'm in a position to judge curriculum and textbooks. So anyway, I don't know why so many of you have come here. I hope you aren't supposed to be taking care of patients. Because the body politic is in pretty good shape in California. It has a few little maladies, few little allergies to new taxes and a few things like that. But I basically got it under control. So actually, you're here, so you might as well. There's a lot of nice things to see in Sacramento. You can go jogging down by the river, but don't worry about the government. You take care of your patients, I'll take care of the body politic. Thank you very much.